When Claude created the festival, it was a touristical tool to make Montreux known all around the world, to attract people in Montreux. Yeah, Claude was working for the Tourism Office at that moment.
I didn't know that, really.
And the first
said, hey, why don't we do something special?
Sorry?
He just said, well, why don't we do something special to get people to come here? Hey, I have an idea.
Yeah,
I was a cook, but you could do something in the music field.
He was working for the Tourism Office, and his mentor was Claude Jossi, a genius in marketing and etc. And he asked Claude, because he understood Claude was a guy which is a little different from the others, to find an idea to make Montreux known around the world. And Claude came back from New York and say, I want to create a jazz festival. And everybody looked at him and said, you're crazy making a jazz festival in 1967 to make Montreux known.
Yes.
They gave him $10,000. And at that moment, Claude had the most brilliant idea to film and record every single note of what happening is Montreux. Actually, it sounds obvious to say so, but in 1967, it was really rare that the artists were filmed and recorded.
Okay.
They were filmed and recorded on television, but not really on live concerts. And the second idea for Claude was to have the highest standards of broadcasting, television, directors, lighting designer, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And at the end of the show, to give the tape to the artist, free of charge.
Oh, that's
and what
smart.
happened straight away? The first one is 1968. Eddie Harris, Les McCann, and they did amazing concert together in Montreux. They released the Montreux Jazz Festival album live of Eddie Harris, Les McCann. 1 million pieces sold in US. 1 year first in the charts in US. Means that the brand development of Montreux started just with this single idea.
Yeah.
And Claude was so attached to his region that he spent his entire life of making his region known all around the world.
Yeah.
And finally, you see, 60 years later, we're bringing a lot of things to the region. The region is giving a lot of things to us.
Of course.
And it's why also in the job that you're doing, the most international company coming to the region.
That's probably true.
It's the best things that we can do for all the region altogether.
Welcome, everybody, to another podcast in the Getting Serious series for GGBa, the Greater Geneva-Bern area. I'm Woody Wade, your host. And as you know, the last 5 or 6 podcasts, we've brought on a series of really interesting personalities who have different things to say about different aspects of Switzerland, what makes Switzerland special, what makes Switzerland attractive to foreign investors also. And today we're going to switch gears just a little bit in the sense that we're not going to be talking so much about business as maybe we'll talk a little bit about culture and the arts, but believe me, there's some business that's mixed in. And so my guest today is Mathieu Jaton, who is the head of the Montreux Jazz Festival, the world-renowned Montreux Jazz Festival. Everybody's heard of that around the world. And I do want to talk to you about that. But before we get into that, well, first of all, let me just say thank you very much for being here. Welcome.
My pleasure.
So
thank you for having me.
So happy to have you. And of course, there's lots to talk about the festival itself and its history and its future. But before we do, we discovered not long ago that we have something in common, a little bit of overlap in our two histories. And I thought that might be an interesting place for us to just kind of kick off the conversation.
Sure.
So you graduated from the another world famous institution, the École Hôtelière de Lausanne, the Lausanne Hotel School, or EHL, as it's called in the business. And you graduated at the time when I was working there as the director of marketing. And I had, I'm just speaking for myself, I mean, it was just an absolutely great experience to work in this energetic environment. I remember when I went there for my job interview, this would have been about the time that you just started your studies there. I was sitting in the reception area waiting to be called in to meet the person who was going to interview me. And I was sitting there, and all of these young people were walking around, and they were all, just dressed up to the teeth. I said, "Oh, the professors are really young here," And it was only later that I realized these were the students, and everybody is so well dressed and so presentable and so outgoing. So that was a magical time for me. Well, I'm going to say something that's a little disconcerting, let's say, is that when you and I talked on the phone about 10 days ago, kind of have our little 10-minute prep for this session, that you mentioned that you didn't remember me. And I thought, and then I realized, well, but that's okay, because when you work in the admin, students don't know the people who work in the administration of the school, right? And I was on the road half the time anyway, so I feel a little bit better. But it's taken me 10 days to get over that.
I'm sorry for that.
No problem. So anyway, let's talk about you. So tell us about your experiences at EHL. Let's start with that.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely one of the best moments of my life, to be honest. And it was, I was not dedicated directly to the hotel business school, because I did my studies in Canton Fribourg. And when I got my
diplôme. Studies, you mean your gymnase or your?
Yeah, the gymnase in Bulle, in Canton Fribourg.
Okay.
And then I was just following the lines, and I was ready to go to the university in Lausanne in economics.
Okay.
And I was even ready to go, because it was on a Sunday before starting on Monday. Oh. And I went to see a friend that was studying at the university in Lausanne, and said, maybe look, what are you studying? And I look at that and say, do I really want to be an economist or something like that? They say, no. So I went back home and I told my parents, I'm sorry, I won't go to the university. And my father looked at me and said, okay, what do you want to do? He said,
this was the night before you were supposed to start, right?
The night before.
Okay.
And my father was just really amazing. He said, okay, but what do you want to do? He said, I don't know, but I'm really attracted about the hotel business. I don't know anything about it, but I want to try. He said, okay, let's go to do like a stage in a hotel.
Right.
And I went for 2 months in a hotel in Vevey, and I had so much fun in cooking, in serving people, and I was really practicing. I had no clue how it works, but I had really fun, and I was working for 5 in the morning till 10 p.m.
And you liked that?
Of course.
Okay.
I like serving people and just making people happy.
Right.
So then I entered the hotel business school in Lausanne. I always say hotel business school in Lausanne, because it's much more a business school than hotel business.
Right.
And honestly, I entered the school at the time. The school had a very big turn, moving from the old system to the new system. And when I entered, we were only like 300 students, and we moved very quickly to 1,500. Now it's 4,000 students. It's really huge, impressive. But where I was the most comfortable with is that I'm always interested of a lot of things. So it was difficult for me to find a line where you study just economics or rights, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And entering the hotel business, it was just like 40 different courses, moving from, food and drinks and hospitality and housekeeping, strategy, marketing, economics, finance, and all that stuff. And I was really passionate. And the lesson I was the most in love with, I can say in love with, was psychology. And because my teacher was just like the best teacher on earth, and we were learning the way how to treat the conflicts, to resolve the conflict. And she was so good that it brought me something totally different in the management, how to manage people and all the stuff.
Yeah.
So I had an amazing experience, and we still have a lot of friendship with the people. Sure. We just celebrated 30 years of our first year at the Hotel Business School, 1 month ago.
Right.
And it was funny because in our section, we were 90 people.
Yeah.
And there were 65 people from all around the world coming at this party in Lausanne.
Oh, my God.
Amazing. People from Canada, from US, from all around the world. They took the plane to celebrate these 30 years of study. And that shows the friendship and the... everything which turn around the alumni of the Hotel Business School. Yeah. And funny to see, and we're going to talk about that later, that makes me very comfortable entering the Montreux Jazz Festival, and I will tell you after why.
Yeah, let's come back to that. But before we do, let's continue on this topic for just a moment more. It's true what you say. I even as an outsider, I was working there, but I didn't have the same, student atmosphere that you lived through. you could sense that this was a place that was not like a normal school. It definitely was not like a company, because there was this spirit there, and I think it comes back to what you were saying a moment ago, which is that everybody who went to that school had something inside them that you don't normally see in a student who wants to go and study economics, for example. There's something very it's in their heart,
emotional.
It is. It has to do with wanting to give something to people, to make them feel happy, make them feel comfortable. And that's what hospitality, I guess, is all about, right? And my time there was really special. Like you said, we grew really fast, and we added also the English section, which was part of that growth. So the school did change its character a little bit. I guess when you started out, it was totally Francophone, isn't that right?
Totally, yeah.
For about 1 or 2 years, and then it
for 2 years, yes. It moved to the English sections, yeah.
Right, but when it started, it was quite small. Like, it was just one class of about 30 kids or something like that, right? And now I guess it's I don't really know, but I say
50-50, something like that. Yeah,
I know it was kept 50-50 for a long time.
Yeah, maybe it's more English now.
I bet it's more English, just because 4,000 students. It's hard to find 4,000 French-speaking students.
I do agree.
Or 2,000, let's say half. When the whole world is, especially Asia, because I think that's where most of the the new growth has come from, and these would be English-speaking students mostly. But so now hospitality is not exactly the same thing as running a jazz festival, right? Which is a cultural event. Although there's
yes, it is.
Event management.
It is.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, and I learned that honestly from Claude Nobs, because Claude Nobs was a cook, and he did the hotel business school also in Lausanne.
He was a cook?
Yeah, he was a cook.
I didn't know.
He was #1 cook in Switzerland.
Really?
In Basel. And then he did the hotel business school in Lausanne when it was in Ushi.
Yes.
The very small one.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
But he did the short sections. So we had something in common, really the hospitality. And when I started at the festival, I started a little bit earlier because I've met Claude Nobs. I was 16 years old. And so when I started the hotel business school at 18, 19 years old,
right.
I met Claude again, and he asked me to come during the festival to organize the party for the artist up in the chalet. And so that was a dream for me, because I was just like at the end of the scholarship, I was going up to the Claude chalet to organize the party for the artist. So it was just like, I was always taking like 5 or 6 of my friends of the school.
To work with you?
Yeah. And we spending 2 weeks. It was dreamed weeks. But when I finished my studies at the hotel business school, then I told myself I really need to look for a job right now, because I was doing a lot of things. I was running a club, I was running a bar, I was doing a lot of things, but I said, okay, I need to find something. And I knew at that moment that entering the Montreux Jazz Festival was something very tough, because there was, at that period, only 8 people full-time. Actually, we 50 people full-time.
Right.
And it was very difficult, especially for, a hotel business schools guy, because in the festival, you had bookers, you had accountants, and that was it.
Yeah.
And to make the story short, Claude called me one day and said, "Do you still want to do the festival rather getting into the hotel business directly?" Mm-hmm. And I say, "Yes, of course, Claude. But
you don't.
Are you sure
I
can?" And he told me, "Yes, that's exactly what I want. I want someone which is sensible of the hospitality, and you will see it's going to work." And I understood very clearly after 1 or 2 months what Claude meant about that. Mm-hmm. Montreux is really a question of making people happy. It's really a question of emotion. It's really a question of relationship.
Right.
And I was talking about the 40 different jobs I've learned at the hotel business school. Yeah. In a festival, it's 80.
Yeah.
And so I felt quite comfortable entering the festival, because there is a lot of F&B, there is a lot of management, there is a lot of finance, there is also all the activities which is important at the festival. So when Claude asked me to take over the position for sponsoring and marketing, honestly, I had no clue about the sponsoring, but I was quite comfortable. And I understood that it was, when you see such an event, is not a question just of culture. Of course, the peak of the iceberg is the programming, is the name of the artist you're bringing, the spirit of culture you're bringing.
Right.
But all the rest, especially right now, is tons of competence that you have to coordinate. So finally, having my background in the hotel business, I felt quite comfortable entering the Montreux Jazz Festival. Yeah. And now there is like almost 50% of the people working for Montreux, they are coming from the tourist and hospitality business.
Oh, okay. That's, I guess, partly because of you, right? Pointing the people doing the recruiting in that direction?
Not really. It was just more that very, very easily we've been oriented to the hotel business because there was close connection, but also for the position we were looking for, HR and finance and sponsoring, marketing, communication. It sounds that the people from the hotel business school, they are really well trained. For such event, which is not only to do the marketing, for example, as a product, because we storyteller. We bringing emotion on the table. We're not festival organizer. We're emotion creator. And that's for me very close to the hotel business.
Yeah, sure.
I'm in an hotelier. Claude was always saying that we're running the festival like a 5-star hotel and we are concierge. And I do agree with that, because at the end, we need to please the audience, the artist, the partners, the media. And our goal is that. It's not an ego trip. It's really the way to make people happy.
Yeah. So how many years had the festival been going before you joined? About 20 or 30, right? Or
I joined as a staff in 1994. So the festival has been created in 1967.
Okay, so almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years. Yeah. And I started full-time in 1999. So it was like 34 or something like that festival.
Right. Now, I know, to look back at the festival before you joined maybe isn't even ask you a very fair question, but do you think there was something missing until you came and brought this hospitality spirit with you? And
no, I'm not in a position that there was something missing before I was getting in
criticism. But I'm just thinking, that Claude Nobs obviously saw in you somebody who could help transform the place in terms of its spirit and its kind of its human mission, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was not in question of spirit because Claude really get it. I mean, the DNA of Claude, the DNA of the festival was really that intense relationship, human factor that he was bringing on the table. Yes. What he told me years later, and almost like 2 months before he passed away, that was quite surprising because he passed away, it was an accident.
Yes.
And he told me once during one party we got saying that I would love that you continue when I will pass away, hopefully the latest.
Sure.
But he told me because you know the DNA, and you will know how to turn the festival into the future.
Right.
So I kept that in my heart when Claude passed away, and understanding a little bit what Claude meant at that moment. Claude was really intuitive, creative, deeply passionate to the musicians, and he brought a lot of irrationality to the festival. When I say irrationality, for me, it's really positive.
Sure.
Because he brought in a business that were quite structured, something that was just totally out of the box. And that's what makes Montreux what Montreux is right now.
Right.
But the festival was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he was part of a business, music business, that started to be a real business.
Yes.
And now you see with Live Nation, AG, Taylor Swift tour, Adele tour, we're talking about billions.
Right.
Now it's a real business that is quite heavy in the general business economics. And I think that Claude understood that I had the competence to keep this irrational spirit and bringing a kind of sustainability into the structure. An operational structure, because now, we have so much rules, we have so much constraints in terms of festivals. When you're bringing 250,000 visitors, when our budget is 30 million, we are hiring 3,000 people working for the festival. So you have now a lot of rules.
3,000. So
It's
you go from
2,500 exactly.
50 full-time employees, and then during the festival, it's 3,000 people almost, right?
Yeah. Just to give you that example, when I started the festival, I mean, the staff were just like giving a call. Do you want to work? Yes, fine. Okay, I give you a badge and you're working and that's it. And I give you 100 Swiss francs for working. Thank you very much. There was no contract. There was no VAT. There was no taxes. There was no, we needed to declare anybody, etc. And then the world changes completely. So now and in the HR department, there was no HR department when I started. There were just like one girl coming 6 months a year to just take care about the staff.
Okay.
Actually,
do the paperwork.
Yeah. And actually, it's 4 people full time for HR.
Imagine.
But most of them because of the law, because of the rules.
Yes.
Every single staff that we're hiring need to be declared. You need to be, I mean, we get the taxes, blah, blah, blah. So it's a tough job, which doesn't increase the value of the festival.
Right.
But it's a lot of paperwork.
Right.
And that shift where Claude was a little bit uncomfortable with, because he saw that the cost getting higher and higher and the revenue were more and more difficult to achieve because there was a lot of competition in the business.
Yes.
And it was not possible to do as he was doing in the past, just like giving call to Santana. Okay, I'm coming. That's great. Okay, that's the fee, blah, blah, blah. Now there is a chain of people that you have to respect.
Sure.
But that's the beauty of Montreux. When you keep this spirit and this emotion and this heart into the business, with the structure, then it still continue. Because if you think a little bit wider and you look at the business model of the Montreux Jazz Festival now, if you had to recreate that, he will be dead. Because, I mean, it's totally financially irrational when you see. Just to give you an example, the main hall in Montreux, 5,000 capacity.
Right.
Glastonbury is 100,000 a day.
Yes.
Coachella is 150,000 a day. Z-Jet, Exit, even Palais is 40,000 a day.
Right.
How can I fight when someone is paying like hundreds of thousand Swiss francs? I could not pay the same.
Yes.
So on paper, the business model doesn't work.
Okay.
But the brand of Montreux is so strong that we're making work with a different perspective. And that's maybe the shift
I see.
we've made. Someone said once that for me, the biggest challenge when Claude passed away was to change everything without changing everything. And that was it.
And you managed to do that, I guess, then, right?
Because the most important thing is that every single person from the audience, they had to feel that finally nothing changed. The spirit is there.
Yes.
But on the backside, all the structure has been changed to make it working in the business we are.
Right. That's like the old joke of watching a duck swimming on the water, right? It looks above the water, everything is placid and peaceful. Under the water, it's paddling like hell, right?
That's exactly the point.
That's interesting. I mean, there's in a lot of organizations, there's some balance between, the heart and the brain, or the structure and the finances and whatever. And then there's the mission and the spirit and that sort of thing. But in a lot of places, it's the structure that gets the most attention, right? And I have the impression from what you're saying is that all of that's extremely important, but of course it's not enough at all. It has to be right. You can't overlook it. But if you don't get this other part right, you've got nothing, right? And your brand, which is what did you say, 1964? 67, right? So that's almost 60 years old, and it will be in a couple of years, right? So for all this time, the Montreux Jazz has stood for something, and that's the beating heart that allows you to attract talent, I guess, right? And did I hear correctly? I don't want to put words in your mouth, that you're able to attract talent at maybe a little bit less than the market rate because the brand is so strong. Because that makes it sound very cold, right? It's not about the brand being strong. That's not why they come, but it's because they want to be a part of this this event, right? This is
That's a mix of a lot of things. But you're right to mention the brand, and that's also an important thing, because when Claude was alive, the festival, Montreux Jazz Festival, and Claude Nobs was the same thing. And he was the flagship, the creator, the founder, the CEO. He was everything, and the festival was everything for him.
Right.
So when you were talking about the Montreux Jazz Festival, you're talking about Claude Nobs. And when you were talking about Claude Nobs, you were talking about the Montreux Jazz Festival.
Right.
So when he passed away, the biggest challenge is how to turn it out to keep this spirit without Claude. And I was lucky enough to have spent more than 50 years with Claude and to have understand exactly what was Claude's spirit.
Yes.
And it was not always what people were thinking. And it's why my first mission was not to take over the position of Claude. It was not to replace Claude, because nobody could replace Claude.
That was smart to think of it that way.
I think it was the only way to think.
And someone else could have come in and said, well, I have to step into these shoes now and do all the things that he did. And of course, you'll never measure up. No?
If you want to make an ego trip in this position, you're dead. Because if you want just to replace the creator, if you want to just position yourself and say, okay, I'm the new one.
Now it's me.
Now it's me. It's over. Because it was not me. It was not my festival.
Right.
It was Claude's festival.
Right.
And the major idea behind that was we have to do everything to make the brand of the Montreux Jazz Festival as strong as we can. That maybe in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, doesn't matter who is running it. Because it's not a personal thing anymore. It's a brand living on itself, which its brand values. And we've been working with the team, and I have to say that my team is amazing, because everybody is just putting their ego on the side. Everybody, the oldest people in the building, all the direction committee, they're working for Montreux for in between 15 to 20 years. So they knew Claude also.
Yes, right.
And it's very important, because we've been all together, just like shaking hands and say, okay, let's do, everybody's doing his job, but for the purpose of the brand.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference.
Right.
Because now, when you listen to the staff coming to the festival, and when you listen to the partner, when you listen to the audience coming, they think, we're going to the Montreux Jazz Festival. Before that, most of the team saying that we are working for Claude Nobs.
Oh, really?
And of course, we were working for the Montreux Jazz Festival,
Right.
but it was
But that's how it felt.
It was a little bit more prestigious to say that I'm working for Claude Nobs. Now everybody's saying that we are working for the Montreux Jazz Festival, and that makes a cultural mindset. Sure. Which is totally different.
Yeah.
Because it gives also to the employees a perspective, because you're working for an institution, you're not working for a man.
Right.
And we were very proud to work for a man like Claude, because he was a mentor, which I thought I was not for the team in place, but the brand was more important. And that's where we are right now. And that was also securing the brand and putting the brand values very clear in the mind of everyone. Then we had the opportunity to develop the brand.
Yeah.
And that was the big change we did like 5 or 6 years ago, developing the festival abroad, doing the Montreux Jazz Cafés, doing the Montreux Jazz Club, and really developing the brand. Also to help economically the festival to stay as strong as it could be, even if the business model is changing completely, because the brand is strong.
So you need to sort of build some extra pillars that you wouldn't just be sort of tottering on one or two things maybe they're strong, but it's always better to have 3 or 4 or 5, right?
But that is important maybe for the people listening to understand that in the year 2000, 2005, a concert for an artist was a way to promote an album, because the artists were doing 95, 97% of their revenue in selling albums.
Right.
Then we all know what happened with digitalization and the market fall down, record company fall down.
Right.
And it turned very shortly in 5 to 10 years that 95% of the revenue of the artist is now concerts. They have to tour, they have to play to win the same money that we're winning in the past. So what does it mean economically?
Is that because with streaming, they don't make any money?
No.
Okay.
Everybody in streaming, they're talking about the success of Taylor Swift or Adele, but this is 1% of the artists.
Wow.
And even maybe 0.5.
Yeah.
Those success is just the top of the 10 or 20 biggest artists on the planet.
Right.
But what about the millions of other
Right.
doing like maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 million listeners on Spotify? You say it's good, but it's not
not enough.
anything.
Oh.
So those artists, and even the biggest one, they have to tour.
Okay.
Every single year. So they don't have the time to compose anymore.
Okay.
They are not touring to promote an album. They have to produce an album to have an actuality to tour.
Okay.
Means that they are less rare,
Right.
but there is a highest demand because as most artists are on the road, there is a lot of festival that has been created.
Yes.
So competition is getting higher.
Yes.
Prices is getting higher.
Yeah.
Costs are getting higher because an artist touring every year, he could not compose a new album every year.
Right.
So he has to make something different. And what is different is the production, is the screen, is the dancers, is singers, is blah, blah, blah. And that has a huge cost.
Sure.
So it's why the fee is getting from 1 to 5 in very single year. And just to end on that, it means that Montreux with 5,000 capacity, how could I fight with 100,000 or even 50,000?
Yeah.
And that was, for me, honestly, the best thing that could happen to Montreux, because we were already so irrational in terms of structure.
Oh, right.
That we had to think differently, out of the box,
Right.
to make our business working. Just give you an example. If you're a festival on the ground of 40,000 or 50,000,
Like
visitors
Adele,
there,
for example.
The first thoughts that you're going to say, if we increase the price of 5 francs, it makes like 250 per day more. So 5 days is 1 million more. So maybe, let's do that.
Right.
Or if we could increase the capacity of 10,000,
Right.
maybe we can pay a fee of 1 million.
Right.
So the risk is to do that. And you've seen in Europe, there was a lot of cases like that. Primavera, a lot of festivals, they started to say, okay, let's go bigger.
Okay.
Because if we have more capacity, we can pay higher fee.
Sure.
But at the end, it's the ball and it's the circle, because you have more capacity, but to fill that capacity, you need bigger artists. And to have those bigger artists that are much more demanded, you need to pay a higher fee.
Yeah.
So at the end of the circle, did you win something? Or is that the risk that you've taken? For example, there is one festival in France, they're moving from 50,000 people a day to 70,000 people a day. And now they're coming back because they understood that for 2 days, they had the opportunity just to pay a little bit more. But at the end, as they could not pay the A artist, they have to pay the B artist, and the B artists are not filling the 70. It's like the chicken and egg.
Oh, I see.
So Montreux was never in that solution, and we are lucky enough in Switzerland, especially in the French part of Switzerland, to have brilliant promoters on the market, like Paléo, like Festinoche, like Science sous les Étoiles, which are people on the business for the last 30 years that understood that very clearly. Take Paléo. They could have taken the decision, okay, let's do a bigger festival and increase the price of 10, and then we have the money to pay Ed Sheeran and Dua Lipa. No, they haven't done that. And they were right, because doing that was just running after the train. And they haven't done that very courageously. And maybe doing like an overall festival could look like a little bit less impressive, successful than the others.
Yeah.
But they invest everything on the experience.
Yeah.
And at the end, you see, last year, 27 minutes to sold out. This year, 12 minutes to sold out. They made it right. Festinoche made it right. And I think that Montreux made it right. Because we concentrate our effort in the experience to the audience, experience to the artist, and not to the ego trip to see, you see, we had this guy and this guy on the lineup.
Bigger and bigger and bigger.
And I will end with that. And that's for me the most important thing in the music business right now. 10 years ago, this business were name first, location second, meaning that you can have like the biggest name pudding somewhere on the planet is going to work. And now the new generation, and as there is also a lot of festival, a lot of concert, blah, 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 they are looking for something different, which is experience first, location second, name third. Doesn't mean that the name is not important. It means just that you need an experience, whatever the experience is. Right. Take Coachella is an experience of Instagram experience. It's a lifestyle experience. Glastonbury is like the Woodstock experience.
Yes, right.
Montreux is like intimacy experience, quality, sound, blah, blah, blah. So Paleo is a social experience. So all those festivals, they have an experience. Then this experience should match to the location. Yeah. And the location should match to that experience.
Sure.
That's
it's
what
it's part of the experience, right?
It's part of the experience. Right? And some festivals are taking the location as an experience, or vice versa. Okay. And at the end, you need a lineup which fit to the location and to the experience.
Right.
There is a lot of example of artists that I can book in Montreux that won't work, but if you book them in Paleo, it will be success, and vice versa.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
And that's the beauty of the market now, because it shows. And it's maybe back to your first question of the major changes, is that we had to adapt our mindset to the music business. And that's something I could do because I was dedicated to the brand. Yeah. And that was something for Claude, and that was more difficult because when it's you, baby, and you say, okay, I have to change everything. Yeah. It's very difficult because it's you.
Sure.
And Claude was very conscious about that. Yeah. And it's why he was, the genius of Claude, honestly. And we had that chat this morning with the team. A lot of people say, oh, he was a genius guy in music, blah, blah, blah. Yes, of course. But for me, his genius was that he got the vision of bringing around the table and helping him all the most influential people in the music business. It started from Ahmet and Neshwe Ertegun from Atlantic Records. It went to Daniel Philippaki, Hachette Group in Paris. It went to Quincy Jones producing the festival in 91. That was the unique festival on the planet that was co-produced by Quincy Jones at the top of his career.
Right.
The genius of Claude was there. This geniusity of bringing the most influential people at the right time at the festival.
Yeah.
And more than that, he was, attracting those people and making those people so much in love with him and the festival that those people will never quit. Yeah. Means when Claude passed away, just to give you the example, the first call I received was Quincy. And honestly, I would have understand completely that Quincy would have said, I'm so sad, Claude was my brother, thank you for all the year I lived with you, but that's over. You know, I would have understand that. But no, the first question of Quincy, you say, okay, Claude was my brother. The festival is the most beautiful festival on the planet. Now my duty is to help you to push the festival into the future. So anytime you need me, just call me and I will be there with you for entire festival. And that's amazing. Yeah. That makes me almost crying because that's the beauty of what Claude created, and that's the heritage I get. Is why I put all my effort in the brands and on the spirit rather on my personality.
Of course. Wow, that's touching to hear that. And but it shows that this loyalty and this understanding of what Montreux Jazz Festival is not just an institution and not just the structure and not just the business. It's much, much more than that. It's interesting, if I think back to my MBA days, in the last millennium, one of the things I remember from a marketing class, it was a course in marketing of services. And it stuck with me all this time, is that if you market a product, you have whatever this product is, and its reputation is going to be, it's good quality, it's the highest cost materials, it has a 10-year guarantee, blah, 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 blah. It's basically, it's your perception of this thing and its value based on its price, obviously, but it's all about a thing, right? Service, though, one of the things that is part of the service because a service something is delivered in real time, is the other people who are also being delivered the service next to you. So, for example, in a restaurant, take a really simple example, the other people in the other tables, if you go into a restaurant for the first time, you're going to kind of look around and you're going to say, I don't feel comfortable here and it's not because the food is no good or the service is no good. It's because maybe the other people are not quite what you expected, or they're loud and brutish or something. But the enjoyment of any kind of service is not just enjoying the one-on-one responsibility or one-on-one relationship that you have with the person who serves you, right? But it's all the stuff that makes part of the environment, and that's all the other customers at the same time. So when you have a festival with 5,000 people, right? That's 5,000 people who are influencing the impression that the other 4,999 people have of the event as well. And so it all comes back, like you said, to the experience, right? So the word brand in marketing sometimes defined as a promise or something, right? So it's a promise, but for a product, it's the promise is that the materials are the highest quality and the price is whatever, and all of these things, and we'll stand by this and we'll replace it if it gets broken and blah 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 blah. But the other people who buy this, besides me, I never see them. Maybe I might see someone walking down the street and say, that person, terrific taste, just like me. But we're not all experiencing it at the same time. But with Montreux Jazz Festival, it's all happening at the same moment, and the delivery is not just like this, it's like that. And how do you master that? How do you master that in a way, you've got and on top of that, you've got 2,500 or 3,000 ambassadors who also have to represent that spirit at the same time. Because I won't say if one of them, doesn't live up to the standards, the whole event is ruined for everybody. I don't mean that. But on the other hand, they are ambassadors, and they have to, they have a role to play other than just doing whatever it says on their job description, right?
I mean, your question is very interesting, and it's key in the business that we are.
I would think so.
And especially right now. It was a little bit different 20 years ago, but now it's very different because a lot of things are a little bit more marketized, and everybody's looking for an experience, everybody's looking for a special relation, a special emotion, etc.
Right.
To make it short in my answers for your question, because it's wide, the first answer, how to manage the audience expectation. First is never to oversell. And when I say oversell, is that the product the people are buying is the artist, is the performance of the artist. So the festival, first, when they're buying a ticket, they buy a ticket for Santana, for Nine and Richin. That's it.
That's right.
At Montreux Jazz Fest.
Yes.
Meaning that overselling is not, we have to bring the experience, but not to put the experience higher than the artist.
I see.
The artist is key. Then it's never to oversell what you could not manage. When I say the performance of the artist, you couldn't manage that.
Right.
You have to bring the experience of the consumer that should be as best as it could be. What does it mean for me?
Right.
It means that when you're going to a hotel or you're going to a festival, you're going for fun. You want to have fun. You're going to a 5-star hotel. You're paying the price.
Right.
You want to have a good time.
Right.
That good time could be affected if the welcoming part is not well.
Right.
If the process of the check-in is too long.
Right.
If the room is not ready when you want that the room is ready.
Right.
If the question you ask to the concierge is not answered.
100 things that could affect your...
A festival is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
At the time the program is launched, you want to have the opportunity to buy a ticket at the moment you want. You want to receive the tickets as fast as you can.
Right.
You want to find information on the website as fast as you can.
Right.
You want to access the festival easily.
Right.
Not to fight with the traffic. And this is all parameters, which is very difficult to manage because some of the parameters we're managing, some not.
Totally out of your control, right?
But is not the problem of the consumer. That's our problem. And why I'm saying that is because there is a kind of trend in the service business and culture, saying that it's not our fault because of blah blah blah, etc.
Yeah.
And that's, in a way, it's right, because there is so many parameters that I don't have any. Just take the weather.
Yeah.
I have no clue on the weather. I could not change that.
Right. Sure.
But I can try to find a way that if it's raining, the journey of the consumer is not as good as it could be, because if it were a good weather, but all the structure is thought that you will live a good time.
Right.
When you're setting up a festival, of course, everybody's looking at the stage, especially in 24 and 25. Everybody's talking about the stage on the lake. This is beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Yes. I mean, in the music business, setting up stage is something easy. I mean, it has a cost, but it's our business. It's straightforward.
Right.
The most important thing is all the service behind that.
Yeah.
When you pay a seated places of 300 Swiss francs, do you want to smell the toilets close to you? No. When you take a ramp to go up to the podium, do you want to have like wood which is not comfortable? No. But all those details, you have to manage them. That the audience, they feel that they are comfortable. And most important is that we should not reflect to the audience the constraints that we have. Give you an example. Sustainability. It's a big subject right now for the festival.
Right.
Festival has a big carbon print because a lot of transportation, blah, blah, blah.
Sure. Yep.
We do not have to affect the audience, say, don't do that, don't put your glasses down, blah, blah. We should find solution to make their life easier.
Okay.
Same thing for the payment system. Everybody's talking about a cashless system with wristlets that you have to charge, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
This is a good thing for the promoter, not for the audience.
That's right.
Who is coming to the festival and say, I want a wristlet to pay my hamburger? No. Do you want to come to a bar and you want to pay with your credit card, your Apple Pay or whatever? Yeah. So a festival like us should give us, like us, I mean, because there is a lot of festivals, they have other constraints. But for us, Montreux as a 5-star festival, or, I mean, bringing quality on the table, we have to give to the audience the highest flexibility ever.
Yeah.
And that's something which is important. And that bring this impression, then the only focus that the audience should have arriving on stage, on the venue, is the performance of the artist.
Yeah.
The rest is our job to make it happen.
Right.
And honestly, sometimes it doesn't work.
No,
because you're late, because the weather is bad, because the train is late, because the traffic on the road, because we made a mistake.
Right.
But it is our duty to make it as best as we could.
Right. And almost invisible, right? I mean, because
invisible.
You know, that's the best kind of service, is one that you don't even notice that it's happening, right?
Is why we're so close from the hotel business.
Yes.
Because at the end, when you pay a room 1,000 Swiss francs for a night in a 5-star hotel, I mean, everything should be smooth.
Right.
And a very little thing could be a worse experience.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the way the human brain works, the things that you will notice will be the things that aren't working well. And the 99 other things that are working perfectly, the person will never even see it, right?
You remember in the marketing when I started my studies, the first thing that has been told, never forget that if one client is unsatisfied, he will generate 20, that will generate 20, that will generate 20.
Right.
So meaning that it could be
the
like...
bad news will explode.
The good news?
No,
it's normal.
Right.
So when I'm saying that is for many, many years, Montreux Jazz Festival were known for the quality of sound, for the quality of hospitality, blah, blah, blah. I will never use that argument as a marketing tool, because it's why the people are coming to Montreux, they need a good sound.
Right.
So if the sound is not good, we haven't done our job.
Yeah.
And that's a huge pressure.
Yeah.
because it's not anymore a marketing tool. It's like a standard that we have to bring.
It's necessary but not sufficient, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're going to Paleo, you want that it's fluent. It's a festival which is reputation is that you're getting in very easy, getting out very easy.
Right.
And just that if they have one problem with that, everybody says, it's not what it was in the past.
Yeah.
And that was I mean, for me, the most important thing to bring the audience on the same level. Back to your question, that's the perception of the audience is focused on the performance of the artist,
right,
and not of the rest of the things that the festival has to provide.
Right.
Secondly, and your point is key, is how can we manage with the staff? Because we are 40 to 50 people full time. You're right, working even 11 months long. Then the day of the start of the festival, 2,500 people coming in. The first person that an artist is meeting at the airport is a guide, staff. The second person is a driver in the car, a staff. The third person is the backstage people, staff.
Yeah.
It's maybe 10 or 15 people before they are meeting someone from the permanent office.
Right.
And that's a very important point, because you're managing a brand, you're managing a festival, you're bringing the best artists as we could, and then you give the key to the hand of someone, which is it's coming for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So how can we transmit that spirit? We are working in hierarchy, in pyramids, and to give that message to the different team. And you're right, 95% of the time it works.
Yeah.
At 5% it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And back to the audience, sometimes you have one staff in front of an audience expecting they are coming to the Montreux Jazz Festival, that they need the right service.
Yeah.
And this staff is just getting in, has no clue how it works, and maybe the answer is not appropriate.
Yeah.
Then the audience will say, Montreux is not what it was.
Yeah.
Yes, that's difficult.
Yes.
But that's what we have to manage.
Wow. Yeah. And you should get some kind of an award just for being able to go from 40 people to 2,000 overnight like that. I don't know how you do it. But of course, you do it every year. So you have some experience in making this happen.
It sounds like, but we have to improve all the time, especially also because the behavior of people are changing. The expectation of people are changing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I wanted to add when you're talking about the brand. We've been qualified by Saatchi & Saatchi many years ago as a love brand, like Apple, Harley Davidson. And I love this this image of what a love brand is. And I remember there was Pedro Simcoe from Saatchi & Saatchi teaching us.
Classmate of mine, actually, in business.
Really?
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, he is.
And he explained me very easily what is a love brand. He said, you have an iPhone. If your iPhone falls down, you say, oh my God, what I have done? My iPhone is broken. It's drama. If you have a Samsung and your Samsung fall down, you say, oh no, it's shit phone, it's broken. and that was so funny to see the difference that once you're breaking your iPhone, it's your fault. But when the Samsung is falling down, maybe Samsung or Huawei, I don't know, another brand.
Samsung is also a fine brand. Yes.
No, it's not that it's a good brand. And maybe now it changed. Maybe Samsung is a love brand right now. Yes, I don't know.
Could be. But your point is,
but the spirit is good. Yeah. And then it moved to how many, and we've been very honored to be classified as a love brands. But it's also a huge pressure, because it's what I've mentioned. When people are arriving in Montreux, they expect the sound is as best as it could be.
Yeah.
If it's not the case, they are unsatisfied.
Right.
So the pressure is high.
Right.
But it's the case for many festivals, depending on the values that you're bringing on a table. Yeah. But I think it's something very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's part of the brand values that we have to manage in the future.
Yeah. What you're just saying reminds me of, when you're a young boy and your dad, you've done something wrong, and your dad kind of comes in to have a talk to you. And what's the worst thing is that he doesn't say, I'm really angry. No, he says, I'm very disappointed in you. And And that works, first of all, but it's also, it's something like anger you can understand, but disappointment sort of sounds like we didn't live up, or I didn't live up to your expectation. Now, I have to work harder now to go from 99 to 100, right where I was, and I've let it slip from 100 to 90, because I go, what can I do? What can I do? And you'll try that much harder. Yeah. Right. It's fantastic. I want to ask you.
That's funny. I will jump on that, because that was where I was so passionate with the psychological lessons I received at the Hotel Business School, because the first notion I got in my mind was the analyse transactionnelle, transactional analysis, right. And very interesting, saying that you have in the personality, you have a kid, you have the adults, and you have the parents.
Right.
And exactly what you say. If I'm coming to you and saying that, shit, I'm so upset, blah, 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 and I choose to scream.
Right.
Then you feel that you're doing a mistake, which is not the case, because I have a problem shouting.
That's right. Yeah.
And I believe at that moment like a kid. Mm-hmm. If you answer like a kid, meaning that you're screaming as loud as I'm screaming, we will never resolve the conflict.
That's right.
If you answer as an adult saying, no, Mathieu, please don't do that, I will continue to scream because I feel that I'm not understood.
Right.
If you answer me as a parent and they say, oh, I do understand what you mean, maybe I've made a mistake, and then you bring me back to the adult situation, then you resolve the conflict.
Interesting.
And what you're saying with the parents, the way of if I say I'm really upset, then I'm a kid, which is okay. But you have to answer that differently. If, like your parents were saying that I'm very disappointed, you behave like an adult.
Sure.
And if in front of you you have someone which is not taking that like an adult,
right,
then you will never resolve the conflict.
Right.
And I'm not sure I'm clear, but that was...
No, that's true.
That's very intense.
Funny, isn't it? Yeah. I want to ask you a question about something a little bit different. So in the bio information I had here, which I'm not going to try to refer to visually, but one of the things that you've done in your tenure as the head of the organization is to extend this brand into some other things, like the Montreux Jazz Cafés, for example. What do you see as the future of that move on your part? Are there other areas? Will there be a Montreux Jazz car or a Montreux Jazz stereo setup or something? I don't know. Your brand, again, coming back to that, is so strong. Obviously, it's linked to music. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, the Montreux Jazz Cafe itself is not necessarily something, it's musical, right? Yeah. But it's still an experiential offering. So it's linked to hospitality very, very clearly. What else could you see yourself maybe experimenting with in that direction?
It's a very good question, because I'm asking that question all the time. When you started to develop, how far are you developing, and what should make sense or not?
Right.
Business-wise, but also branding-wise.
Yes.
We're always trying to put a sense behind everything that we're doing, and not just to surf on a trend.
Yeah.
The cafe were very clear, because it was the passion for food and music.
How many are there?
8.
8, okay.
We started the cafe for passion in food and music. Claude was a cook. Mm-hmm. Claude had the recipes that he cooked for the artists. And we have the exclusive right to show the archives of the festival within the brand Montreux Jazz Cafe.
Yes, right.
Passion, food and music. That was very clear. Nice. We had the concept.
Okay.
Then we moved to another concept that is Montreux Jazz Club. And we opened the first one in Lausanne at the Millennium, which is amazing. If you haven't been there, please go there. Okay. It's crazy. It's like it's like the old way club, very qualitative, amazing sound, private club. So you need to be member of the club, like the Soho House or like.
But there is somebody I know could get me in.
Sure, definitely. And there is like open public sessions. So you have to go there. But that was very clear. It's part of our DNA. It's a jazz club.
Yes.
And that
makes perfect sense. Yeah.
The new project I'm very proud of is called the Montreux Jazz Loft.
Loft.
like an apartment.
Right.
And it started from a discussion I had with one of our partners from Realstone, opening an amazing building in Plié, in Malais, La Tourtilia. And we were talking how we can collaborate together because there was some apartment, there was some recording studio, there was some sports location, blah, blah, blah. And I say, you know what? It doesn't exist in Switzerland, or I haven't seen a lot of that. Like big apartments, like the most beautiful apartment you ever dreaming of having. The Loft with high ceiling,
yes,
with a piano, with a beautiful bartender, with a mixing table. So everything that you're dreaming wants to have in your house if you're music aficionados.
Yeah.
And an apartment you can just rent for party, but not like a restaurant or an hotel that at 11 p.m. you have to leave because we have to close the hotel, but an apartment that you can rent just for the entire night, like if it were in your house. And the guy called Esteban looked at me and said, I love the idea, we're going to do that together. And it means that we're going to open in 2026 at Tortilla, the first Montreux Jazz Loft will be 250 square meters.
That's big.
That's
like a whole floor, right?
It's like a whole floor.
Yeah.
And you know where this artist started? This idea started?
No.
It's we were celebrating the 30 years of the hotel business school with all the friends coming from all around the world.
Yeah.
And the first night we went to the Montreux Jazz Café, having dinner up at the HL.
Right.
And we had a wonderful night, seeing each other for the last 20 years, talking, blah, blah, blah. 11 p.m., I mean, the school said, now you have to leave, we're closing.
Oh.
And we were just like, okay, where
we're just getting going.
Yeah, and where should we go? Okay, let's go to the D Club. Yeah, okay. And then you go to a club, and some are coming, some are not, some are going back to sleep.
Yeah.
If we had a location at that moment where you can stay till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, doesn't matter.
Right.
And just like enjoy being together, back to the relationship, to the emotion and blah, 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 then you have something. And if you think it doesn't exist, those you can rent a refuge or something like that, but there is no location that you can just rent for the night, and you have the key and you go there like a private.
This is a 5-star refuge, basically, is what you're saying, right?
That's going to be a 5-star refuge.
The
goal is that is also affordable premium price. Of course, there will be some corporates that will take this apartment for the day, for the night, for a private concert. But I would love that also people from 25 years old celebrating their anniversary and having 50 people to invite, they can just pay that because asking 100 Swiss francs per person, and then you can rent it for the entire night.
That's not too much. That's great.
We started to fix the price, but the goal for me is that it should be affordable.
Yeah.
And back to what we were saying, a living experience. Because when you enter in the apartment, of course, you have the poster of Montreux, you have a picture of Montreux.
Yeah.
You have like instruments. You can play music if you want. You can just play the archives and say, okay, I want to see David Bowie in Montreux 2002, and then click, and then you have that on a big screen.
Oh, that's cool.
And also with all the services. Yeah. The goal is that you can rent the apartment for one night.
Right.
Empty.
Right.
I'm not empty, but just the apartment.
Yeah.
Or you can rent the services and you can use the services of the festival, having
like a bartender,
like a chef table, like musicians, like a DJ, and we will bring all the service on the table, like you were in a hotel, on a private way.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of this idea because it's, and again, cafe, it's food and music. Yeah. Club is live music on the highest standard. We just had Marcus Miller playing in front of like 200 people.
Nice.
Crazy. We just announced Marcus Miller coming in October. Just crazy. Can you imagine that? And the Loft is the home sweet home.
That's nice.
And that makes sense in the brand of Montreux. So back to your question, we won't create a perfume, not yet, because we have no credibility into that.
Right.
We won't create, I would love to create a skateboard Montreux Jazz Festival, but who will understand what we're doing? Or maybe it's a collaboration with a brand of skateboard doing like a Montreux Jazz thing that could be funny.
Maybe.
But we have to bring a sense and a storytelling.
Your strengths have to matter for this thing, whatever it is, right? Yeah, so I can understand that. Yeah, it's not like your own brand of chocolate or something like that.
We did some chocolate, and you're right, because that was the question: why should we do chocolate? And we did it because of the story of Aretha Franklin. You know it?
Of Aretha Franklin? No.
Yeah, no. In 1971, that was the dream of Claude Nobs to make Aretha Franklin playing the Montreux Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
And he was in New York with the manager of Aretha, because Aretha was playing at the Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
And Claude was just starting to negotiate with the manager. Say, I would love to have Aretha, Montreux is beautiful, the palace, the lake, the mountain, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. The manager looked at him and said, yes, Claude, I love you, very nice, but how much? And Claude had only $5,000 in his pockets, and they were expecting 50. So Claude started to dance again and say, Montreux is beautiful. She can come for holidays and blah, blah, blah. Manager looked at him and said, yeah, Claude, but how much? And say, I got $5,000. And manager was very nice and looked at Claude and said, okay, I see Aretha tonight and I call you back. And we all know in this business, I call you back and never call you back. Forget about it.
Right.
And Claude took from his bag 2 boxes of chocolate, Swiss chocolate, from Montreux. And he said, okay, this is 1 box of chocolate for you and 1 for Aretha. And at that period, 1970, 1971, the manager was quite surprised. Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
Right.
So I see Aretha tonight. I would give the box of chocolate. And the day after, by surprise, the manager called Claude at the office and say, you know what? Aretha loves your chocolate. She's coming to Montreux. And that's true. Kidding. So it's why when we created with Fabergé brands a box of chocolates, it was not called the Aretha because we were not allowed to call it Aretha, but it was telling the story of how Claude convinced Aretha to come to Montreux with a box of chocolates.
Nice.
And we called it that the most expensive box of chocolate because the cost was $40,000.
Yeah. To her. Oh, Mathieu, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, thank you.
I mean, we go on for hours and hours, at least I could, and there's so many interesting stories that I'm sure you've got to tell, and maybe we'll have you come back, and I know that this is a very busy time for you, so it's not exactly...
It is, but it's the most funniest time ever, it's very interesting, and so thank you very much for having me. Great pleasure. As you can say, I can talk about passion, emotion with the festivals, and happy also that the festival is not only a cultural event in the region, is really an economical tool, bringing more than 100 million return investment in the regions.
So we get our ad in at the end here.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. You're part of the communication promotion in the region, so it's important.
100 million, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The budget of the festival is 30 million. We're generating 80,000 nights of hotel in the region. People coming from all around the world in Montreux.
80,000 hotel nights.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which in total, the direct and indirect return investment is about 100 million. For the entire regions. And that was the first mission of the festival. When Claude created the festival, it was a touristical tool to make Montreux known all around the world, to attract people in Montreux. Yeah, Claude was working for the Tourism Office at that moment.
I didn't know that, really.
And the first
why don't we do something special?
Sorry?
He just said, well, why don't we do something special to get people to come here? Hey, I have an idea.
Yeah,
I was a cook, but you could do something in the music field.
He was working for the Tourism Office, and his mentor was Claude Raymond-Jossy, a genius in marketing and etc. And he asked Claude, because he understood Claude was a guy which is a little different from the others, to find an idea to make Montreux known around the world. And Claude came back from New York and say, I want to create a jazz festival. And everybody looked at him and said, you're crazy. You're making a jazz festival in 1967 to make Montreux known.
Yes.
They gave him $10,000. And at that moment, Claude had the most brilliant idea to film and record every single note of what happening is Montreux. Actually, it sounds obvious to say so, but in 1967, it was really rare that the artists were filmed and recorded.
Okay.
They were filmed and recorded on television, but not really on live concerts. And the second idea for Claude was to have the highest standards of broadcasting, television, directors, lighting designer, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And at the end of the show, to give the tape to the artist, free of charge.
Oh, that's
and what
smart.
happened
Oh, yeah.
straight away? The first one is 1968. Eddie Harris, Les McCann, and they did amazing concert together in Montreux. They released the Montreux Jazz Festival album live of Eddie Harris, Les McCann. 1 million pieces sold in US. 1 year first in the charts in US. Means that the brand development of Montreux started just with this single idea.
Yeah.
And Claude was so attached to his region that he spent his entire life of making his region known all around the world.
Yeah.
And finally, you see, 60 years later, we're bringing a lot of things to the region. The region is giving a lot of things to us.
Of course.
And it's why also in the job that you're doing, the most international company coming to the region.
That's probably true.
It's the best things that we can do for all the region all together.
How many of the artists would you say have never been to Switzerland before, typically? Do you ever ask that question, or do you even know?
No, honestly, we know if they have been playing in Switzerland or not.
Right.
For example, FK Twigs this year never played in Switzerland since the last 10
But it might
years.
have been here for vacation or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's
But we don't
hard to know that, right?
Hard to know.
Right.
How to know.
Right. And do you ever do they talk about the experience a little bit separate from just part of the festival?
They do, and that's for us very interesting because we're living here, so we're never seeing with the same eyes what the region is. And when you're arriving with the Lavo, with the car, with the train, with the mountain, with the lake, with the sunset, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I was always thinking that those artists, they were playing in location like Red Rocks or location in the world that artists.
They must be used to every beautiful thing in the world, right?
But not really.
No.
The smalliness of Switzerland, of Montreux, this intimacy, the security, the respect, which is in Switzerland, and the beauty of the region, that's all those elements.
Respect, like for their privacy, for example?
Amazing.
Yeah.
You can have, I remember this story when Muse came to the festival for the 50th anniversary 10 years ago. I mean, Muse was on the top of the world at that moment. Of course. And they still are.
Yep.
And Matt Bellamy, the guitar and singer, he knows Montreux quite well because he was recording with Mutt Lange in La Tour de Pelle, so with Muse. So they knew the region. They played Montreux 10 years before, but he arrived in Montreux, and then I was asking my team, where is Matt Bellamy? Because I heard that he's having a dinner. Yeah, he's on the walkway having a hamburger on the terrace on the lake in the middle of the crowd.
Because he can.
He can.
Right.
And he was just sitting on the terrace having his hamburger with his wife.
Right.
And people would say, hey, Matt. And he would say, hey, how are you? Can I take a picture? Yeah, but let me finish my hamburger. Let's take a picture afterwards. Well, no problem. Okay. That's Switzerland.
Yeah.
And that's also Montreux audience, but it's everywhere in Switzerland like that. People are... I'm very proud of that for Switzerland. People are so much respectful.
Yes.
And they have that in return. Because the artists, they feel that. We have a lot of artists coming from America also saying that we need security, blah, blah, blah. No, forget about it. Of course, maybe you have your bodyguard and things.
Yeah.
But nothing will happen. People will respect you because they love you.
That's right. That's a great note to end on. Thank you, Mathieu, very much.
My pleasure.
I've appreciated this.
Thank you for having me.
Have a talk. Thanks so much.
Thank you.